We've always had a very romantic idea of what it would be like to live in the country, all that fresh air and open space. Well, for the past couple weeks, we finally had a chance to give it a try.
One of the benefits of being nomads is that we get to try out different kinds of destinations and also different kinds of lifestyles. So we've had a chance to live in Istanbul, which of course is a huge mega city of 17 million people. And we've lived in teeny tiny Dubrovnik with a population of barely 40,000.
And for the past couple weeks, we've been living on a farm in Ontario's countryside. We've got a few neighbors down the road, but the closest town is 15 minutes away.
So we always thought that being in the countryside would be a very idyllic lifestyle. We would be far away from the chaos of the big city. We would be surrounded by nature. We'd get those long walks with our dogs. Maybe we would pop into the farmer's market to get a fresh baked pie. It would just be a different pace of life.
Well, what we've discovered is that country living isn't all long walks and fresh pies. I mean, we're actually plunked down in the middle of farmers' fields without a store or a coffee shop in sight. When we headed out of the city, we left a lot of conveniences behind.
But first, good morning and hello from the township of R.LUM.R in Ontario, Canada. So if you're wondering where that is, you're going to have to look pretty hard on a map. And if you're new around here, I'm Stephanie, this is Gillian. We retired early to travel full time.
As part of this adventure, we're trying to discover what kind of destination might make a good home for us in the future. We're in a perfect situation to experiment and try out different lifestyles. We've lived in big cities and on a small island and on the coast and in the mountains.
So just last week, you saw us trying out small town living in Blue Mountain, Ontario. That was a very nice taster of being out of the city. So there was lots of hiking and we had a trip to the beach, but there were still a few too many neighbors. We wanted to be just a little bit more remote.
So we're trying out something that we've dreamed about for years, living in the countryside. In fact, I've always said to Stephanie, once we're ready to take a break from traveling, I'd love to get some land and grow some of our own food.
I'm a little on the fence about that one, but fortunately, Gillian's dream is obviously a little hard to accomplish as nomads anyway, so it's a bit further down the road. But in the meantime, we can still experiment with country living and see if it's something that might work out for us. And since we have another month in Canada before that second vaccination, and the summer has finally arrived, we're ready to give country living a try. So we found a cute little place on Airbnb. I was a little worried when I saw the building. It's kind of like a barn or shed type structure, not too much with the curb appeal, but actually the upstairs apartment is very welcoming. It's done up in kind of a rustic chic style. So there's a wood burning stove, not that we need it in the summer. There's a classic soaker tub in the bathroom and lots of charming touches throughout. But once we found the place, we immediately realized how isolated it really is. So the 2 weeks that we booked could really feel like a very long time without any of that big city buzz.
The first big challenge we ran into with our idyllic farm life is that we are 100% dependent on a car. If we want to go anywhere, we need a car. There's no Uber out here, there's no bus into town, and since there isn't really much in our immediate vicinity, if we need any little thing, we have to go by car to get it. This is very different from what we're used to. Typically, we choose an apartment that's centrally located. We can usually walk anywhere that we need to go. Maybe we take a bus occasionally, and if we do need a cab, it can be there in minutes. Here in the country, if we need milk or bread or coffee, that's a 30-minute round-trip drive into town, which brings us to the next challenge. The amenities are somewhat limited here.
The nearest town to us is Creemore, which has a population of almost 1,200. So this is a charming historic town with a grocery store, a couple lovely cafes and galleries, and that's about it. So once you've walked Main Street a couple of times, you've really sort of seen it all. We had a bite on a patio and we had experienced Creemore. Again, this is quite different from life in the city where you've got just an endless supply of shops and restaurants. So it's been a real adjustment for us. Not that we spend so much time shopping or dining out, but it's always nice to know that the option exists. Instead, we just have to be a lot more self-reliant here in the country. We find that we need to plan ahead, make sure we have every single thing we need. No one wants to drive that half-hour round trip when you suddenly run out of coffee.
Fortunately, we actually love our own cooking and we don't mind whipping up the majority of our meals at home. By now, we figured out that we can be plunked down anywhere with just a couple weeks of groceries, and we do very well for ourselves. We just have to forego those random cravings for Vietnamese food or sushi. Of course, there's still one more challenge to living in the country. We're basically stuck out here with just each other for company, and the dogs aren't much for conversation. It's a little isolated. I mean, we wanted to be here for the peace and quiet, but it's a whole lot of peace and quiet. And when we want to spend time with friends or family, someone has to make a pretty significant excursion.
So those are the realities of country living, but what's the payoff? Well, we've had the fresh air, we've had the long walks, we've had all that time for quiet reflection that we were hoping for, and we get to wake up every morning and have our coffee with a gorgeous view in the background.
We've also learned that there's no one perfect lifestyle for us at this stage of life. We love the variety we get by being nomads. We love the freedom to try a lifestyle on for size and see if it fits. And it's been really great to have these 2 weeks in the country and get all that peace and quiet that we need.
And we'll be equally happy to get back to the city and have any type of food we can possibly dream of.
All this just reinforces that we're not quite ready to settle down yet. We still have a lot of exploring and experimenting to do.
And of course, no matter where we go, being early retired means that we need to be very self-directed with our time. We don't want to just land in a new destination and have the days slide by. We want to get out there and discover everything a place has to offer. In fact, you can see exactly what a typical day in our nomad life looks like by checking out the video right here.